can ever be seen, more to do than can ever be done. Some say eat or be eaten, and some say live and let live. But all are agreed as they join the stampede. You should never take more than you give in the circle of life. Use the wheel of fortune. It's a leap of faith. It's a bend of hope till we find our place on the path unwinding. It's a circle, or the circle of life. And some of us fall by the wayside, and some of us soar to the stars, and some of us sail through our troubles, and some of us live with scars. There's far too much to take in here, more to find that can never be found. Oh, let the sun rolling high through the sapphire sky keeps great and small on the endless round. It's the circle of life. Oh, it's the wheel of fortune, and it's the leap of faith. Oh, in the path of hope. Oh, till we find our place on the path unwinding. It's the circle, oh, the circle of life. Oh, till we find our place on the path unwinding. Oh, it's the circle, the circle of
I won't say it. Simba. It's a great song. You're right. The lyrics are great, and it's hard not to think of The Lion King, which was also great. I forgot to include in my announcements a follow-up. I asked for your prayers a few weeks ago as my partner was getting ready for surgery on her thyroid, which went well. The pathology has come back clear. Yes. And she is just not having a ton of energy, which our friendly neighbor and medical advisor at times, Val, reminded, well, half of her thyroid's missing. And that's a hormone that is going to need to be adjusted. And we also endured a tragic loss that I've shared with a few of you, and I'll just share because It's contributing to the state of where I am today, which isn't fully balanced, but doing my best, and that is sort of a stepson to us, Chance, who lived with us for 8 months, best friend of Jesus, our middle son, and roommate of Jesus in Seattle. He died in a motorcycle accident last week at 24. So I've come at it more like, oh, get rid of the motorcycles, and Heidi's come at it with, I'll get there. I've gotten there, but so that has been hard on her recovery, all that weeping. And we'll be doing our best to celebrate his life in the next few weeks. So be so careful if you're a motorcycle rider, and be so careful if you're riding behind one. Okay. I swear I'm not here to bring you down. It's just the circle of life. I mean, this is the circle of life. And it doesn't always happen like we think it should. So here we are on our power of order, our ability to organize, sequence, adjust, and evolve. Carly's made us a pretty slide for that, Dan. Back one. It's the green one. Here. Oh, it's not in there. All right, forget it. Just forget I even mentioned it. I swore I saw it in there. Perfect order, that's right. So you'll recall that this is a basic unity teaching, the 12 powers, that our co-founder Charles Fillmore assigned each of the 12 disciples that Jesus called as representations of the abilities, the capacities that we all have that we need to call forward in order to actualize our Christ consciousness, our own divine nature, that part of us that is of God itself. And so James the Lesser is associated with the power of order. Now that couldn't have been fun to live with. The Lesser. We don't know why he was called that. He might have been short in stature, but probably in comparison to James, the son of Zebedee, the brother of John, the sons of thunder. He was just a lesser. It was a way to identify. I don't agree with it. I feel like it's causing him harm right now, but for some reason that's how he's been distinguished, James the Lesser, and I think the more power to you, James. The physical location of our power of order is identified with the navel, and really identified with the digestive process, right, which is very important that we are in balance. So much happens in that gut. And so having an orderly bodily function is understandable why we would locate that in the navel and around the digestive system. Rebecca is the female representative added to this study. And so, as I mentioned, we use this power to organize our garage and our desk, as well as our approach to learning something new, step by step, in a sequence, building on each step along the way, adjusting our current understanding as we expand in our understanding and our knowing. And the energy, the orderly force behind the process is evolution. Right? That is what's driving, that's the ultimate force of order, is to evolve, to let go of anything that limits that we have outgrown and expand. So it works with our power in conjunction with our power of love in order to attract us, harmonize us, and unify us more fully with the love that we are, as expressions of God as love. However it is you identify it, we commonly speak of God as love itself in unity. And it takes the human mind time and effort and practice, not only to learn this intellectually, but to also feel it, believe it, and act in ways that demonstrate we believe it. We don't just know it. We act in accordance with what we are learning. But it doesn't happen overnight. So as I said earlier, skipping steps is not advised, right? We get a taste of this truth, which is so empowering and so freeing. It's like, yeah, let's just be in spiritual thought all the time. And there's that feeling part and that acting part. And that often involves, I don't know if it's this, I think it is this book that says, we start with the light loads before the heavy stuff hits. We start practicing this higher level of understanding that there is a divine order and a divine purpose working in my life. Things aren't just happening to me. First of all, I have a say in what happens, and I certainly have a say in how I respond to it. And do I believe that there's a divine order and a divine purpose so that things might be happening for me? To learn that. So, as we recognize that it is true that we are the master of our world, it starts from the inside out. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of courage and a lot of willingness to mess it up and try again, right? And so instead of avoiding, sometimes I have experienced, I've even said this a few weeks ago, that I haven't really done this. I've thought about it. I've learned it. And sometimes I've even felt it and practiced it. But when I got to the really hard stuff, I came back up to, let me just think some happy stuff and focus on good stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that stuff is still there. And it's still contaminating my good. It's still containing it. It's still holding it. So the real practice is to realize that fear and sadness and challenges aren't going to go away. They're part of the human experience. But we can embrace them knowing that they're not going to take us down, because there is that within us that is not ever contaminated by human limitation and thought. It's pure, it's whole, it's true. It is of God itself. And the world doesn't teach us that. We have to find that, and we have to practice that, and we have to believe that. I mean, it's growing. There's a growing awareness and a growing willingness to do that and talk about that and practice that together. So we can face those experiences and those places within us with greater power and greater compassion and understanding when we know that they can't consume us unless we let them. For within us dwells the spirit of truth and love that never wavers. But we really never know the depth of that, to be able to trust it at its depth until we do it and try it step by step by step, day by day. Nature gives us a wonderful example to follow, right? Nature cooperates with the divine pattern of order. It doesn't say, wait a minute, I have a better idea. Or, whoa, my gosh, why did that deer have to die? Well, I mean, right? Like it just is in the process of order. It understands that this is, I don't know if it understands. It just does it. We have the capacity to question or to doubt or to think maybe we know better, right? Lisa's corn on the cob example was an object lesson on order, taken from that verse in Mark chapter 4, verse 24. The earth produces of itself first the blade, then the ear, then the full grain in the ear. So there's a natural order of operations there, from a tiny seed to a robust, leafy corn stalk, that kind of the last step is holding that husk of corn, right? How could it has to go through all of those steps in order to be strong enough to hold that corn. So all the steps and the twists and turns that life takes us are necessary for the fullness of this growth, for the fullness of this realization. And as the author said, we don't jump from the blade to fullness of spiritual power overnight. We grow there. I love that idea. In other words, every step contains nourishment and strength for the realization of our true nature if we focus there, if we stay in it. Just as there is a perfect pattern within the seed of corn, there is a perfect divine pattern within each of us. See, that's where you want to go, I just want to think that all day. Right? And then somebody cuts you off. And then your spouse doesn't remember what you were supposed to get at the grocery store. And then, that was me. And then, right? In that moment too, call upon that perfect, what would that, if I align myself with that power, that perfect idea, I come from a very different place than when I'm reacting to the human experience. It's not always easy, but it's always an option. So ultimately, we're talking about the demonstration of order. Ultimately, when we talk about divine order, is mind, idea, expression, right? That ultimately, the mind of God contains the ideas of all things that are manifest and things that are yet to be manifest. And we are one of them. We are an idea, a divine idea in expression. And we use that same process ourselves, right? Everything that we do, where does it start? We think about it. Some of it's so automatic, right? But at some point we had to learn to drive and eat, do all those things. We learned it. So ultimately, order is based on spiritual law. By that we mean, Charles, co-founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore, said that the law of God is the orderly working out of the principle of being, or the divine ideals into expression and manifestation throughout creation. And we use that same process. We think about something. We might think about a million things but not manifest them, thankfully. I don't know about you, but some of the thoughts I think, and no thanks. Right? The thoughts we think with great feeling and that we think most frequently are the ones that often become manifest. The divine law of giving and receiving is another spiritual law, right? That what I give comes back to me multiplied. I don't give because I'm trying to get more. That's a little misuse. But I give because I trust that the universe is abundant and that I'm participating in the circle of life. Oftentimes it's advised when you're feeling separated and lonely and down, go be of service. It's amazing what it does for your spirit. And it connects you back into the flow. So mind, idea, expression is the inherent sequence of divine order. Starting with the idea that we are an expression of a divine idea in the mind of God. And how do we act? How do we think? How do we feel when we know that? question is, do we know it? Do we know it every day, all day? That's the practice, right? We certainly cannot choose everything that happens to us, but we can choose what we believe about everything that happens and how we respond. Are we a victim of our experience or the master of it? That is our choice. And I know it's not always easy. Oh my God, do I know? Charles Fillmore said, to serve the Lord is to keep the divine law, the law of right thought, thinking as though you believe and know you are divine in nature. Remember that the Lord, when we're talking about the Lord, we're talking metaphysically about the activity of our spiritual I am, the truth of us, making that the Lord of our being over our opinions and our preferences and our pain and our suffering and our regrets. Bringing that light to all of those experiences. Does that make sense? He said that the heart is the subconscious of humanity. The laws of Jehovah are written on the heart. And by our meditating and realizing spiritual ideas as the reality of our being, we come to express the fullness of that love that is within our heart, that is often subconscious. So I'm going to walk you through a meditation now that kind of, this book gives steps. They're sort of like preparatory steps to work with your whichever power. This one is order. And I think they're very helpful. I can describe them, but I'm going to lead you through an experience, with any luck, that you can make it a personal one, okay? So I'm going to ring the singing bell, which just invites us to kind of drop from our head to our heart. I'll still be saying a few words, but opening up your heart and letting it land with you in your experience, whatever's going on for you that might require some adjusting. That's the power of order. Take a deep breath again, feeling your feet on the ground, your chair, your back supported by your chair. Checking in with your physical body, seeing if there's any place you can breathe into or relax more. Walking through these steps for cultivating spiritual order in your life. And I have a handout for these, so don't worry about writing them down if that feels like something you're called to do. The first step is orientation, which means recognition of and adaptation to a situation or environment. So we want to orient our mind and our heart toward spiritual principles and laws. Remember that the basis of that is that the law of God, divine law, is the orderly working out of the principle of being. So we're beginning to turn our attention toward that. This first step brings us to a point of ending all resistance to the world as it is. The world as it is has a lot going on. Let's stop resisting it. We end resistance to the world as it is and conditions as they are. and begin our orientation into the spiritual world that lies behind all appearances. There's something happening behind all that we see. Judge not by appearances, right? But with right judgment. There is an order, there is a purpose behind the experience. So we're beginning to open up to that. And in this way, we are preparing ourselves to cooperate with the divine pattern for our lives. Just as the flowers and the birds and the grasses of the field do. Without resistance, we can cooperate. So the affirmation here is, I orient my thinking toward a divinely created universe, governed by spiritual law. No matter the chaotic appearance, there is a spiritual law and order behind all of that. I orient my thinking towards a divinely created universe, governed by spiritual law. Step 2 is consent. Consent is a word derived from Latin, meaning to feel with. To feel with. So mental acceptance of a spiritual world based on spiritual law is just the first step. We must also back our mental acceptance with a feeling of agreement. Am I willing to feel this new concept, this broader understanding of what it means to be a spiritual being? And if so, the affirmation is, I consent to do things God's way, Spirit's way. I realize that I am limited. And so I consent that there's a higher, truer way. I'm willing. Leads us to step 3, cooperation. Cooperation is the first actual active phase. First, let us establish that we are not simply looking to impose our methods and practices and beliefs on others. This has nothing to do with others. Rather, we are seeking to learn how to apply these principles within ourselves. And now that we have accepted mentally and agreed with in our feeling nature, we can move forward in cooperation. The process of cooperating, of working with the spiritual laws as we understand them. It is good to know. It is good to feel strongly about the truth that we know. But it is in the doing, the following through, that establishes order as a firm basis that brings us to the bridge of spiritual awakening. As Jesus said, if you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. So here we affirm, I actively cooperate with the laws of a spiritual universe. I actively cooperate with the laws of a spiritual universe. Meaning I realize, here's a few laws, that as I give, I receive. I realize that the nature of my thoughts and my feelings impact my experience. I take responsibility for that. I cooperate with the laws of a spiritual universe. Which brings us to step 4, harmony. Harmony cannot be established in mind, body, or affairs except through our cooperation with divine principle. Otherwise, we're forcing it. We're forcing it in a way that may not really work. Charles Fillmore explains the divine idea of order is the idea of adjustment. And as this is established in one's thought, their mind and affairs will be at one with the universal harmony. So all 3 of the earlier steps must be taken in order before we can begin to feel this sense of accord, of oneness with the good of God everywhere. So begin to think in terms of God's universe, founded on spiritual laws. And put yourself in tune with that emotionally. How does that feel? And then we can apply the truth that we know in our activity. There's the action. Look at all that had to come first. And so it is that finally we reach that bridge to the spiritual awakening, where we actually feel a sense of harmony that establishes for us a new relationship with divine good everywhere. And so you can affirm, as my thinking, feeling, and actions are in harmony with divine laws, I attract harmonious results. As my thinking, feeling, and actions are in harmony with divine laws, I attract harmonious results. And step 5 is order. Order is a condition in which everything is in its right place and functioning properly. In truth, we can only experience this on the spiritual level. Order established simply in a human way or imposed on others through force is not the true expression of spiritual order. In fact, it will attract confusion rather than an orderly progression. So we're looking for order based on enlightened cooperation with divine law and divine guidance, which brings about right adjustment and harmonious growth. At this level, we are not standing still. Rather, we are progressing under divine direction in a divinely unfolding way, continually bringing forth more and more of our divine potential. So you confirm for yourself, I advance daily in a divinely ordered way. And this leads to step 6, which is freedom. You will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. The only true freedom is the freedom that comes to us through our spiritual awakening. As we come to know the Christ within, our own divine nature, and put it in charge. So we can affirm here, I experience the freedom of Christ consciousness. I experience the freedom of Christ consciousness. And lastly, and this assumes we've been working with this, we've had some mastery of these steps. The seventh is continuity. From the freedom that is the result of continuous, conscious, orderly cooperation with divine ideas and spiritual guidance, we move to this step of oneness in the faculty of order. Here we can proceed in a sequence of expression in such a way that there is no sense of stopping to make a decision, but cooperating with divine law becomes easier. Here, there is such a realization of oneness with God's order that we consciously make right decisions with greater ease and move forward in a continuous realization of harmony, of oneness with Spirit. The affirmation here is, I am one with the harmonious, continuous forward movement of God's universe. I am one with the harmonious, continuous forward movement of God's universe. And we do this one step at a time, one thought at a time. One heart at a time.
Everyone comes to remember.
invite you to take a deep breath and open your eyes if you haven't already. And I hope that sweet little song stays in your mind as it has in mine since I heard it was in the lineup. Some of these songs are good to just have running back there. So now is the time in our service where we give of our good in support of our ministry. I'm giving you an update. Our Greater Engagement campaign is amazing. We are now at $47,681. We were fortunate someone lined up a single gift of $10,000 to that matching campaign. And so, man, thank you. Not man, but wow. You know? Thank you for all the ways, and not that you have to give to that amount. All the little ways that it comes together are so, they end up making the final total. So thank you. There's information in your bulletin about how you can give to that if you'd like to contribute. Getting your donation matched dollar for dollar up to, the total is 30, so our total goal is an additional 60,000. There's also information about how you can give electronically via your phone in your bulletin to that fund or the regular general offering. There's also baskets in the back for cash and check as you're leaving. So however you are giving, we are grateful, and let's bless those love offerings together. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. I am thankful.
Lay your head down tonight, take a rest from the fight. Don't try to figure it out. Just listen to the words I'm whispering to your heart. 'Cause I know this is not anything like you thought the story of your life was gonna be. And it feels like the started closing in on you, but it's just not true. There's so much of the story that's still